how about a very, very quick intro?
I'm Will. I made DAMAs and Zaps and NPubs and all that good stuff.
Hello, my name is Elsat. My public key is NP. I'm a DAMAs product contributor, help Will and the other devs, and help some other Nostr devs as well.
I'm Miljan from Primal.
I'm G. I'm working on Nostrocket. Been in Nostr for a couple of years now.
So, we've been talking about how Nostr is a great platform for freedom, and we have, arguably probably the two biggest clients in the market. Why don't you guys explain the dynamic between having essentially competing platforms, competing clients, with an open platform?
I think it's really interesting because, different clients tend to prioritize different things. So right now, Primal's really good at the UX and the Lightning wallet and all this good stuff. And, and maybe on Dama's side, I might be more focused on local first, a little bit more decentralized. So even though we're competing clients, we're actually kind of targeting different user groups. Primal's probably the larger user group. And I'm just naturally more targeted to my personal interests, and I want to make the best decentralized client. But that's fine. I think it just fits different users, and it's just the more users we can reach, the wider market we can reach. I think it's good. So, and we're going to see more clients, not just us. Maybe there's going to even be a better client that swamps us both. But that's just a beautiful thing about Nostr. It's this free market of competition, and it's just making us all better.
Couldn't agree more. Every client, every product, every Nostr service gets to decide about the approach they want to take and the set of trade-offs they want to make based on the priorities and the users they wish to target. And the beautiful part about it is that every Nostr product, every Nostr client is contributing to the network effects of the entire network. And the user gets to decide what they want to use. And I think a lot of times the users will decide to use multiple clients. I think it would be interesting to know. I don't think probably you guys and neither we actually have that data, but I would guess that a lot of people are using both clients.
I did kind of an informal poll on the network. I'm because I was giving props to Primal because I really like Primal, and I'm oh, maybe I should start using Primal. No, but a lot of people when I said that on the network, everyone's oh, I was afraid to say that I like Primal because I've been such a Damas maxi for so long. But it's okay to use multiple clients for different use cases. If the wallet works better for you, use Primal, and So yeah, from what I can tell, a lot of people are using both clients a lot of the time. So
I think that's the case. I definitely use both clients.
There is this idea not really an idea, it's a protocol design, right? Where essentially you guys are tapping into the same network. And like Bitcoin, you have an entropy little piece, right? Your private key and then SEC, and you can just move with your feet, right? And I think that's the beautiful part, right? You can exist in two different places at the same time, but you can also just move completely. What is this dynamic like when you're designing a product? How do you make it as easy as possible versus the hardest possible for customer retention? Maybe some dark UX. I don't know. I'm joking. But how do you approach the design so that we sort of push the users to have the maximum amount of freedom of movement between clients?
So right now, Nostr works pretty well. If you put your key into most clients, it should work most of the time. There's a few quirks we're kind of working on. But for me, a big issue is, I don't really feel comfortable putting my key into every random client because sometimes it'll corrupt my data. So that's a big issue that I'm trying to figure out how to solve. And this is an issue of just having raw exposed secret keys. So maybe in the future it would have, better devices for protecting your data from crappy clients and buggy clients. But yeah, I think overall it works pretty well, but there's still a lot of things we could improve, I think.
Mr. Nostrocket here.
Yeah, it's particularly difficult in my situation because there's also a consensus layer, which is almost impossible to make it interoperable with other clients. But then everything other than that can be interoperable. And so it's just a challenge of like creating a data structure that works kind of anywhere without needing to rebuild like any kind of local state or anything. So you need everything just as plain events that can be consumed wherever.
I mean, we have this interesting dynamic where, Bitcoin is all about consensus, right? If you fall off consensus, your money's worth zero, right? Roger Ver learned that. Now, on Nostr, on the other hand, it's like you have to almost like this gentleman sort of handshake understanding of like, let's try to stay in consensus, but we don't have to, right? So like, how is it developing in an environment where, you try your best to coordinate and build together, but also like, technical people have different ideas most often. So
I want to give a shout out to the Nostrability project started by Elsat. And it's actually been really amazing.
Let's go.
So maybe you could talk a little about it, but it's been really amazing for like finding these like weird bugs between clients and fixing them. And I know we're all busy, we all have our own priorities, but the fact that, I even just saw the other day when Miljan and his team was able to solve like he didn't have to, but he's obviously has other priorities to make his app better for his users, but he's able to like fix some bugs that were happening in Damus. So just the amount of like, working together in this community has been amazing, and we're not like super adversarial yet, but so yeah, that's been a
yet.
So how you can tell Miljan is a technical guru and engineer is in the last talk he said Nostr in 3 words is signed, messages relayed. If you tell that to a normie out there, they might be like, what is he talking about? So really what the normies want is 3 words again, but it just works. So we're not there today.
Magical words.
I apologize to ruin our fantasies here. It's not ready today. However, we do have, I think, overall a general cooperative environment. Initially, I started filing bug reports on demos. Most of them were for demos, but sometimes we had bug reports which said, hey, this is caused by some other crappy clients, I'm not going to deal with this. So we found this one maybe external repository where devs like Miljan and his team very, very receptive, welcoming, and quick to fix things, right? That big experience for users. At the end of the day, if we're going to win, we need all the Nostr apps to play nicely together. That's Nostrability.
Yeah, thanks very much for starting that, guys. I told you that in person, but I'll repeat it here. You're doing God's work there.
Open sats in the room. Pun me.
All right, let's go. And yeah, I think these are kind of growing pains in a relatively young protocol with, relatively young products. I think this gets sorted out over time. Yeah, we are kind of in soft consensus, and we definitely strive to provide a consistent user experience and a consistent set of features, let's say, with the other top clients, and any deviation from that needs to be really scrutinized, because you don't want to create a walled garden, right?
I mean, the tendency of like businesses trying to optimize for revenue is further moating, right? Like you want to like moat out whatever you have, right? Build those walls around it. And Nostr has this weird dynamic where it feels like the value comes from the openness, right? Like just what that's where the incentives are. So like, again, like when you guys are building, thinking of the features, like what are the things you guys are working on that trend tends towards freedom and sort of towards more compatibility and more things that the commons win?
So Nostr's value does come from openness, but also from user sovereignty, right? And what's interesting in Nostr, and like that, very different from the legacy systems, is that the user really is in charge, and the user really is the customer. So all of us wake up every morning and go to work for the user. That's literally what all of us do all day long. Now we may prioritize different things, but like we are working for the user. So when we kind of get out of consensus, out of soft consensus or whatever, when there are kind of inconsistencies between clients, well, the users suffer, and we know about it. And that the incentives are properly aligned for us to fix these things.
I mean, customer is key, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I see this all the time where it's, sometimes, a DOMS user opens up a thread and doesn't really load or the whole thread, and it's usually due to some like small incompatibility between the clients. So we both, and that happens vice versa. So it's actually in our both interests to just fix these compatibility bugs because it's just leading to bad experiences, especially when your competing client is actually getting market share, and so bugs are more experienced, more and more by the users that you have right now. So yeah, it's incentive aligned to like kind of fix a lot of these bugs. But we don't have this extreme consensus requirement like in money. Like Bitcoin, you really need that consensus because if it's not, then people lose money and then they lose faith in your system. In the Nostr case, yeah, there might be a buggy thread, but it's not like you're not losing your money. So I think, the soft consensus model allows us to experiment a little bit more and like kind of be more wild, like that we can't really do in Bitcoin, which has its trade-offs for sure.
So I want to give a shout out to Sovereign Engineering. So those are the devs who are working on the other stuff. Shout out. Let's go. Pablo, GG, Trans up. What I'm personally excited about is I really don't know. That's because other stuff by definition is a long tail, right? That's where we'll get the white swans, as our fellow former Bitcoiner Nassim Taleb might say. Specifically, Pablo has been thinking about this a lot. He, I think, creates about 5 apps per every.
He does that per hour. It's like 5 new apps.
Okay, I was gonna say moon cycle, but yeah, probably. Wikipedia is great, by the way. Wikipedia. But one specific thing Pablo identified early on, and I think he gives a talk about this in Nostr Japan, how Nostr wins, and one of the key recommendations there is what happens if Damus, Primo, Nostrocket, or some other Nostr app sees a non-node, maybe an event that perhaps Damus, Primo, Nostrocket doesn't support today. How do you handle that? And maybe Pablo might include a little recommendation. Oh, here's a couple of apps that you can use to open a calendar event or a meeting invite or whatever it might be. Then going back to the customer, as Will mentioned, how do we handle that to where we can support this alternate event type, and at the same time maybe protect the Damus user experience, has a certain feel and brand. Primo has an amazing app as well. Miljan wants to make sure that he puts his customers in a place where they don't feel like they're getting rug pulled by going to GeoCities website. So a lot of opportunity, a lot of things that we haven't solved yet, but this is personally as a product guy what I'm excited about solving maybe in the next year or so.
Do you want to give us, you're at the forefront of like a bunch of guys just building a bunch of cool stuff for the last 2 months. Like, how is this looking?
So I think like the main thing is that the level of experimentation is insane. We're seeing like a whole lot of other stuff being built. So like Flockster is a good example where it's like the meetup kind of thing where it's not like Damus and Primal is more like the Twitter kind of thing. But I think the next year is going to be, from what I've seen at Sovereign Engineering, the next 12 months is going to be really interesting because people are really looking at like what else can we build here. Yeah, that's.
I mean, you had the npub.cache stuff, so you have people sending caches without permission. You have the highlighter insanity thing that I finally understood what it is,
and the Wikipedia thing that
Wikipedia, right?
Yeah, he built it overnight because he was like angry or something.
Yeah, that's right. You have this thing with Nostr where like the content types, right? They can interact with each other outside of the traditional internet in a way, right? I mean, we have our own protocol, right? And we don't even have to go back to DNS if we do this right, hopefully. But how do you guys see the demand and the interest in sort of mixed content types happening, right? So you have the DVM stuff touching the kind one stuff. You have the long form notes, and all these things are sort of intertwining, and you have the comments on things. The comments can be displayed in different ways. So it's very it sounds simple, but it was not possible before, right? I mean, if you have a comment on a blog post somewhere, the comment is on that blog post existing in a SQL database there, right? Now all this stuff, the replies and interactions and the zaps and everything, they're sort of like in the relays, in the ether, where you can pull from.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's like actually a new issue in this, given that idea. So for example, there's this new Git spec that was just released. And there's actually a working prototype. I think it's called Git Workshop or something. So I've been playing with it, and I noticed like, okay, you can create issues like just like GitHub, and you can comment on issues. But I noticed when I created a comment, it was creating a kind one comment. So I'm like, that comment is going to appear in everyone's Twitter feed for this Git issue, and I'm like, is that like a good experience? Like, it's cool that you can like
Freedom.
It's cool, but like, do you really want like all of Twitter trampling a GitHub thread every time someone comments on an issue? So I think we need to think about those type of issues and like in terms of how are these like replies showing up in everyone's feed everywhere else, and maybe we should use a different kind for comments on issues. Anyway, so yeah, it definitely brings this new type of like challenge of like isolating comments between different areas and stuff. But I don't know, just putting that out there to think about.
Totally agree. And yeah, obviously, people might try that. We might see that kind of stuff in our feeds, and I think pretty much everyone's going to go, oh no, like that's not what we wanted. We create a new kind, move on. And the whole notion that you can have pretty much any content type imaginable on Nostr, and because there's no one around to stop you from doing that, like people will actually do that. So you have this network with all of these different content types. Like in my talk yesterday, a couple of days ago, I tried to categorize the list of Nostr projects that I wanted to highlight. There's so many different categories already. My list wasn't even exhaustive. So making it all kind of work together, like we can create user experiences that combine any number of those content types in the same network based on the same.
Some examples to the audience, like the people listening from home.
Well, I don't know, like I can go with maybe some of the more obvious ones. Let's say like, let's start with short notes and long form notes. Those are both forms of textual speech. Traditionally, they've been divided between, microblogging platforms like Twitter and like long form platforms like Medium or Substack. So that's like a natural way, like it would be a natural progression since they all exist on the same network here to create user experiences that integrate those in kind of more meaningful ways. But then you have music, you have videos, you have, source control, collaboration systems. There's no limit to it. And I'm not going to kind of try and invent something here on stage, but I'm sure people will invent a ton of stuff that's going to surprise everyone in terms of how you combine all of these different content types to create a completely new user experience that wasn't possible before, just because they all exist on the same network and on the same social graph.
Yeah, and I think some people might not think about this because if they haven't really been into Nostr that much of just learning about it, but truly every single entity on the network is interoperable. So imagine if you did an Instagram story, and all of a sudden someone on Twitter retweets that story. Like you're starting to see these like really crazy interactions that could happen. And more importantly for content creators, you can go viral in thousands of different ways on this network. So I think this is something that's really untapped for like the content creator crowd. They're still thinking in terms of these silos, but imagine a world where we have all these different clients, like Instagram clients, Twitter clients, where you could like go viral in one and then it goes viral in another. And so there's a much higher virality potential on these networks.
But it does seem like we have this dynamic where people create things or they have things to sell or whatever. They have a thing and then they need another place to advertise that thing, right? And it seems like Nostr is really starting to shine at being the glue between these two like very basic human dynamic, right?
What is very interesting to me is you have someone like Ben Ark, one of the OG Bitcoin thinkers, creating a IoT NIP. So I don't know why, but how cool would it be to have Nostr on your smart fridge? Or maybe there's some probably a little bit more practical application. Then you have Vitor, the founder of Amethyst. I'm pretty sure he's a medtech founder and has a lot of experience in that field. He's experimenting with putting medical records on Nostr. Who would have expected that? Where is that going? Is Nostr private enough for that? These are some of the things that I'm thinking about.
I mean, people are going to try to put everything. Wasn't there a guy who tried to make a file system on Nostr? That's how you know it's early.
There may be something coming up in software engineering. Maybe tune into the presentations.
I'm sure we'll touch the stove many times while experimenting with this type of stuff. It's okay. Well, let's touch the stove. I'm here for it.
Just don't press the red button on the Damas profile page.
Please don't store data or images in Nostr. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, but so this is actually an interesting segue here. We have a real problem in Nostr, right? Which is we have a great place to put the interactions, to put the textual data, right? But we don't have a place for binary data. We don't have a place for images, right? We don't have a place for videos. And, especially the social part of Nostr, that's a very important part of the content. What are you guys seeing that's starting to attack this problem in a sort of useful, possible way?
So at Sovereign Engineering, there's a project by Hazard, who's down there.
Trudeau represent.
So it's kind of like IPFS, but done correctly.
So you're telling me I have a hash of a file and maybe I have the file?
Yeah, you have a hash and maybe you'll get the file if you're lucky. Yeah.
That's the real challenge for us, right? Like, where do you start the pictures, right? They can't just all be on Nostr.build.
No, that's true. And if he was up here, he would explain how it works and why it's not going to fail.
It's just a hard problem. It's like text is pretty relatively cheap to store. So running a relay is it's a no-brainer. It doesn't cost a lot of money. So it's really easy to create lots of them and create really good decentralization. But storing images and video and, large files can quickly cost money. And there's actually legal liabilities with C-SPAN, all that stuff, CSAM. So it's much harder. Maybe we can create a protocol where it shards the data across multiple nodes or something, but it just doesn't exist. We need a simple protocol like Nostr that's good at storing distributed data in a distributed way. But it doesn't exist. I don't think IPFS is a good solution. It's kind of crappy.
Come to the Sovereign Engineering thing in the afternoon and listen to Robert.
I'll be there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the problem that Hazard's Nostr developer is looking at is he's basically trying to free us from the gulago, as I might call Google. Google does this creepy thing where they might be scanning everything on your drive, including images. Maybe you have family pictures in there and you don't want, say, a big corporation just owning your stuff. So if this thing works, then that means that you can maybe safely, privately store your own files on your own server. Maybe NVK runs a media cloud you can pay him sats for in the cloud. I'm sure he'll take your sats for that service.
So
No, but
storing binary data is a difficult problem that we've had for a long time, and Nostr doesn't solve it yet. But Nostr kind of shines another kind of new light on it and gives us additional incentives to solve it. So that's what I've noticed. With this problem has been around for a while. There have been a bunch of different attempts at solutions. Probably torrenting layer is the only one that kind of worked. Maybe
HT
and then,
is the wrong answer.
And then IPFS and stuff like that, the bit of a dead end. But what's cool is that everyone's talking about this again. It seems to have invigorated the conversation about it. We got reminded that this problem still exists, and there are new people now working on the solution. So Nostr isn't designed for this, but Nostr is creating a ton of new incentives for engineers to work on this. And I'm kind of optimistic that it gets solved.
Yeah. So what are you guys most excited about the let's say the very short term? Okay, the next few months. You guys have it on the pipeline, you see it coming, either yours, somebody else's. What is some of the coolest stuff you guys just I can't wait to start using this thing, or can't wait for this to have some users?
I'm going to start shilling my own new tech that I've been building. So I've been working on something called NostrDB for the past 5 months. It's basically going to turn Damas into a local first Nostr client. It's an embedded relay within Damas, so you can query it like a normal relay. So it works very well. So you can it basically it loads instantly. It works offline. You can interact with things offline. And I really like this new local first movement where you don't assume you have connectivity and everything still works. And the Nostr is really adaptable to this idea. So I'm looking forward to more clients adopting this model and using NostrDB. So yeah, come talk to me if you wanna implement it into your app.
That's super exciting. I'm personally excited about NOS Rocket and some of the other software engineering guys, but there's essentially a movement out there where you have free and open source contributors contributing code. Maybe they send a patch to Will. Will sends them some sats. I do take pride in getting Will to use GitHub issues after 3 months of pestering him. But we have some new models coming up that maybe that might change open source contributions for the better. So I'd love to hear G talk about NOS Rocket a little bit.
I'm going to give a bit of a more maybe boring answer to this, which is I'm excited about making simple, ordinary things work well. That's kind of what we've been focusing on at Primal, and we're making good progress, but there's more work to be done. And I think maybe in the coming months we could get to the point where I'm kind of happy that simple things are working well. So sorry about the boring answer, but that's what we're going to be working on.
No, I'm not going to let you cop out like that. Give me an exact, some example.
Oh, like, I don't know, like opening a feed that it loads.
See, that's yeah. Let's load the feeds.
The things that you expect to just kind of work. Maybe like a crazy new feature like bookmarks, stuff like that.
Do we have a kind for bookmarks?
Yeah,
we do, right?
Yeah, it's like the list spec, and you can put bookmarks in it.
There you go.
I'm actually excited about local first relay. Pretty excited about that. I think that's the correct way to move in. It's going to improve the user experience so much. There's another project at Sovereign Engineering by Stu Bowman, who's working on something similar. And it's like a local relay paired with a remote relay. And the other thing I'm kind of excited about is replacing the GitHub issue tracker with NOS Rocket problem tracker. And in collaboration with NIP34, which is the Git stuff that Will mentioned earlier.
I mean, it would be really cool if the long form note was kept in diffs. So when you have an update of the long form, you get a diff, as opposed to just another note. The local relay is super cool, and it's in C, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen anybody put that on ESP32 yet?
No, but like it uses LMDB. I don't know if there's like virtual memory mapping on that. Okay, that's the only issue.
No, it's going to be brutal. I want to see it. I want to see, if you want to put Nostr in the fridges, you're going to have to support some embedded stuff. Credit cards for memory it's not possible with hardware.
All right, I'll try to make it work on that.
Amazing. Listen, guys, we have like 2.5 minutes left. So why don't you do a round of final thoughts and really keeping to the topic of this panel, on the freedom of social layer, what are your final thoughts on that?
I think, so it's been almost like a year since this all started taking off. There's ebbs and flows. It was really popular at the start. It's been going kind of less popular but I don't think that means like people have less hunger for freedom. I feel like maybe we still need to show the value of Nostr to like regular people and to like the general public. And I think this is what this next year, upcoming year is going to be. Is we're continually improving the UX. We're continually adding new use cases. So I think we're still really early. I know maybe that's kind of like a Bitcoin cliche thing that now we're adopting it. But we're only in year one, so it's very exciting, I think, going into the future and what this year is going to come about. So,
I would say calculators give you the freedom to do math, clocks give you the freedom to read the time, and Nostr is the freedom to speak, freedom to associate, freedom to transact freely, property rights, and Nostr is layer 3.
I'll echo what Will was saying. It's still so early. We're only maybe 1 year into it. I keep reminding people where we were a year ago, and kind of you rewind the tape, look at the trajectory, look at how quickly things are improving, and you can't help but be bullish about it. One thing is certain, Nostr is becoming more and more relevant, even if we're not seeing the user growth spike at this very moment. Nostr is becoming more relevant. If you look at if you pay attention to the content even of this entire Bitcoin conference on a number of different panels in a number of different talks, the conversation tends to sway towards Nostr because it's relevant.
Everybody's bored of Bitcoin already.
It's extremely relevant, and that's only going to increase from here. As I mentioned in the previous panel, Nostr is the social layer for Bitcoiners already, so that's something that we can lean into. And as Bitcoin is bound to grow, Nostr will become the social layer and the communication layer and the publishing layer of the world.
I don't view Nostr so much as a protocol or a technology. I view it as a group of people with shared values, and those values revolve around freedom. And we have enough technical competence here that we're going to hill climb our way to global domination.
Listen, thank you guys for all that you build. And, time is up. Let's get some new users.